Welcome to Saints and Feasts of the Catholic Calendar, meeting the greatest men and women who have ever lived. November 25th, St. Catherine of Alexandria, Virgin and Martyr, late 3rd to early 4th century. Patron saint of philosophers, apologists, and all who work with wheels. An obscure Egyptian wins the double crown of Virgin Martyr. The armies of Alexander the Great swept south and east from Greece 330 years before the infant Jesus ever gently swayed in his mother's arms. After Alexander conquered Egypt, he founded a new coastal city and crowned it after himself. Alexandria, Constantinople, Caesarea, Antioch, and numerous other foundations gratified the colossal egos of the mighty men who laid deep foundations and raised high walls to commemorate themselves and their patrons. How different from the Christian era and its venerable custom of naming places in honor of the Lord, Mary, and the saints. San Francisco, Christchurch, El Salvador, Sao Paulo, Asunción, and on and on. Today's saint, Catherine of Alexandria, appropriates Alexander's name for Christianity, something beyond the imagining of that Greek pagan of old. St. Catherine of Alexandria was a virgin martyr from the waning years of the persecuted church in the early 4th century. Reliable documentation about her life may still lie undiscovered in a dusty codex whose heft is sagging a shelf in a neglected monastery. Until such authentic corroboration of her life is brought to light, however, the total absence of verifiable facts make Catherine an enigmatic figure. Precisely due to this dearth of biographical information, Catherine's feast day was removed from the Church's universal calendar by Pope St. Paul VI in 1969. In 2000, Pope St. John Paul II went on pilgrimage to the Holy Land to properly commence the third millennium. Among the holy sites he visited was Mount Sinai, Egypt, on whose summit Moses received from God the tablets of the Ten Commandments. The Orthodox monastery on Mount Sinai is named in honor of St. Catherine, after a legend which holds that her relics were borne there by angels upon her martyrdom. The Orthodox abbot of the monastery sadly refused to pray with the Pope during his pastoral visit to St. Catherine's. Among the unstated reasons for this rebuff may have been the Church's decision to liturgically suppress St. Catherine's feast day in 1969. So in 2002, Pope St. John Paul II restored Catherine's feast day, perhaps as a generous ecumenical gesture to the family of Orthodox churches. Devotion to St. Catherine began in the late first millennium among the Orthodox. Her cult migrated to the west with the Crusading Knights when they returned from the Holy Land in the 12th century. Devotion to St. Catherine exploded in popularity throughout the High Middle Ages, until she was one of the most commonly invoked saints in all of Europe. Even a college at England's Cambridge University was established in Catherine's honor in 1473. It is said that Catherine was a beautiful young woman from a noble Alexandrian family who had a miraculous conversion to Christianity, compelling her to make a vow of virginity. Her erudition and persuasive gifts convinced 50 of the emperor's most able philosophers of the truth of Christianity. Catherine then had further successful forays in converting the emperor's own household and soldiers. When she rejected the emperor's romantic entreaties, he sentenced her to be shred to pieces on a spiked wheel. But Catherine's bindings were miraculously loosened, and she survived the ordeal, only to then suffer beheading, thus earning the double crown of both virgin and martyr. In the summer of 1425, a young French girl named Joan, standing in her parents' garden, gazed into the mist closely enveloping her and saw something. It was St. Michael the Archangel and two women wearing rich crowns. One of these women was St. Catherine of Alexandria. Catherine spoke sweetly and softly to young Joan, saying that she would be Joan's counsel, guide, and protector. She even promised to one day lead Joan to paradise. Years later, when Joan acquitted herself well under questioning by theologians, just as Catherine had done when questioned by philosophers, the townspeople said that Joan of Arc was none other than St. Catherine of Alexandria, come down to earth again. St. Catherine of Alexandria, your intelligence and devotion led you to be outspoken for Christ. Intercede on behalf of all Christians, making them fearless in their advocacy for and defense of the truths of our faith, even to the point of death. Amen.
Latens